We get so focused on the sales side and we don't realize that we're suffocating because we don't have a good oxygen input or the oxygen's dirty or whatever that input is. But if we can have an advantage in our acquisition or our supply, or we can have an advantage in our processing or an advantage in our sales, our distribution, having all three of those is ideal. Very often, if we're having cash flow situation, we just want more cash flow. It's not our sales that's a constraint. So we work on the wrong problem. What the sales is the constraint. So we want to look at the system as a whole. And we also want to look at that our output is somebody else's or could be somebody else's input. Just like carbon dioxide is our output, trees and plants use it as the input. And then, of course, they create oxygen for us. And that's the whole type of system there. Most of my big breakthroughs have come because I've acquired an advantage or an acquisition advantage to what I've acquired. So I'll give you an example. You guys all know I used to sell POS systems back in the day. And the way my boss taught me to do it was you go beat the streets. Like you knock on every restaurant door, you go on every restaurant and you call on them, you cold call them. But some restaurants already had POS systems. Some restaurants didn't have one and they don't ever intend on getting one. So I just keep knocking on doors. And it was a very hard and inefficient process, even if I was the world's best salesperson. But one of the things I realized, to get my old throw spaghetti against the wall, the easiest people to sell were people that were opening new restaurants or new bars or new hotels. So when I went into these new restaurants and even before, like when they were breaking ground, they almost always had this, hey, applying for a liquor license or application for a liquor license. Like how that's a government thing. Like that's got to be available. So I ended up getting a list for everybody who's applying for a liquor license. And the beautiful thing about this was that who would know who's opening a restaurant almost before they ever broke ground. This is for the whole state. I think depending on how many people are on the list, I could pick it up for $50 to $100 a month. This input, right, drastically changed my success. Right now, I can just focus on these people that are opening at restaurants and get rid of everything else. Did my sales ability change? Hell no, it didn't. It didn't change at all, right? Yeah, at the time, I didn't realize that was the real asset, not the POS systems, but understanding that was the real asset. My advantage was just knowing where to go get those lists and maybe processing them. And of course, some other stuff I could do with that. That's my skill set, is more in understanding databases and IP. And that's why I focus on that as my investment endeavors. But I look at it like, how can we get an advantage to our supply? Or if we have an output, how can we make that an input for somebody else? What becomes your input? And it's kind of like a turbocharger. If you guys know what a turbocharger, it takes the exhaust and feeds it back into the system, which is called a feedback loop. It's a positive feedback loop. So every business is like this. Every cash machine, every value machine, no matter how complicated it is, or it may seem like it is, it's still, you've got a supply of something. You do something to it, and then you sell it to somebody else. But we're so focused on the sales side, we don't see the real assets. Just like in the land business, I have some really great mentors, but they see the land as the asset. It is an asset, and I'm getting an acquisition advantage because I know how to get off-market deals and get it for pennies on the dollar, but I don't even see that as the main asset. Right now, I can buy buyer's list from the government for 10 cents a record and own them. And then what I do to process them is I send them a letter and say, hey, I send all the multi-parcel owners a letter that says, hey, are you looking to buy land 50% to 70% of market value? I've got a 100% opt-in rate. Once they go from that 100% opt-in rate on my page, that's the real asset. We mailed about 1,300 people in a little town, put together about 150 buyers of land, $1,500. And now I have multi uses I can do with that asset One, I can sell on my own land. Even if I sell three $50,000 pieces of property, that land, that's $150,000 a year. I'll sell probably a lot more than that. But that's in one use. The other use is they're also going to sell their land. The parade of life, at some point, they're going to want to sell some land. So I'm working that as a new acquisition vehicle for land that I want. Here's the other thing. I've already had people reaching out to me, realtors, man, I see what you're doing. Can we get access to this too? Here's the other thing I realize is like when you have distribution or you have a list, you can't supply all the demand for it. I want to know, where can I invest a few $1,000s and get $10,000, $15,000 a month? Because I have acquisition advantage and a mini monopoly. That's the other piece that you can put in there. Like we just bought 5 pieces of land right here in my county. You can't get 5 acres right now unless you know how to buy it off the market. So I control the market on 5 acres right now. And people want 5 acres right now. So we want to have control or ownership of something people want. You get an advantage. I took a couple notes. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. So some of you here maybe have a little bit of a challenge. Like, how do I apply this to the business? Some of you, it's like super easy, especially at the other channels. Like you can buy lists from the government, or I really don't buy them straight from the government. I buy them from another place that takes the data and makes it into a usable format, but it's still 10 cents a record. Dietitians, like they probably have to apply for a license or something like that. So you can get those databases and you can probably own those databases because the government has to make them available. Sometimes as we're doing our business, we get byproduct our business that are more valuable than the business itself. So we just want to start looking at like, how do we get advantage? How can we acquire stuff inexpensively? Right. So let's say you put your book out there. You're planning on selling it, but more than likely you're going to have some way, or hopefully you have some way of capturing some of the buyers. You're going to start building those up. And that becomes the real asset, not our product, not exactly what we do, but the relationship that we built with these people. Instead of spending 6 months SEOing your site, you could just put an ad up or an article up, and all of a sudden it will show up in the Google search results. And it doesn't sound that awesome now, but it was like a big breakthrough back then because everybody's running SEO stuff. But I made a strategic calculation to give it away for free. And I also made a strategic calculation to let everybody rip it off, because there's all kinds of products coming up. Bum marketing this, I'm like, that's cool. That's awesome. But I build up all that distribution because now I can sell SEO product and I turn that into my distribution network for all my other products. So some of your best customers, if you add another use, they may be able to become an affiliate, but you can do endorsements. So that's like, how can we get advantage on the input side? But we really got to get clear on what's investing and what's speculating. When we're looking at what we want to design with our life, we want to be investors, not only just our money, but our time and our energy. Like, where's our time going? Where's our energy going? How are we? And some of that is, look, we got to look at, do people want what we're selling? If they don't want what we're selling, we got to find a way to acquire what they do want and go out and acquire that. But we just focus a lot of times, like, I just got to get better at selling. If you're selling $1 for 90 cents, you're going to have a harder time than somebody that's selling $1 for 10 cents. I've got a real estate partner we can work with. He's teaching, it's called virtual wholesaling, which is basically how to buy and sell houses, right, from your laptop. There's a lot of advantages to that other than going out and driving for dollars and such. But the big advantage, and the reason I know is I did it on other ones before, but it allows them to do something in their spare time, surfing at work, because most of them are working jobs, but they can't do deals. Like, so they can't leave their work and then go work on flipping a house. So just understanding how these work in there and understanding, oh, this is not just about making money. It's about being able to do something in my spare time while I'm working, which nobody talks about. They're just like, hey, quit your job. But no, not everybody wants to quit their job. And even that, like, they just need something they can work into that. But that's about pretty words. But sometimes you need to acquire something like, hey, I'm going to give you one of the things. Hey, I'm going to give you your first list of buyers, right, in your area. The reason this is important, I think, is to get to the position the FU position. But to get to the FU position, we have to think like, if I can just sell better, I'll get to the FU position. You never fucking get there from. It's about understanding there's a never ending supply of something out there that you can get incredibly cheap, cheaper than anybody else can get it, and bring it to a marketplace. That's what's going to put you in a position of, yeah, I don't really care. You understand what the market wants and what it can't find, and then where to go out and get that. And it feels like I can just breathe this money. I'm not just focusing on the exhale part of it or just focusing on the inhale part of it. A lot of times we'll get stuck. And this is really, to me, like this is the money issue with most of the population. Where's their supply, their time and their energy? There's a constraint there, especially if they don't have a skill like the people want to pay big amounts of money for and super leverage, but then they're just focused on the process, whatever process they have. And that's the problem, because they'll just focus on that one process and look at how can I get control of or own something that a lot of people want in even higher levels. How can I be the only one or one of the very few that has it? And that changes everything. You don't even have to be that good of a salesperson. How do unknown idiots get rich? Mini Monopoly and having access to something, right? Nobody knew me in the relationship space when I came into the relationship space, but I had an offer. Like most of them were just selling like how to have better relationships, and there's a few selling like how to fix your relationship, but nobody was talking about what do I do after it breaks up. So having that offer going got me control of all the big JVs, but I also had distribution in my market. But like nobody knew who the hell I was. And I liked my product. I think it was pretty good, but that wasn't the big thing. Is my advantage in having the distribution on that and being the first to the market on that, then taking that and building it up from there. Because once I had several thousand buyers, now I could leverage that and do deals anywhere. That was another leverage point. Is if I go to somebody and say, hey, I have several thousand buyers, I'd like to introduce your product to mine. You think they would return my fucking calls? Yes. Now, here's the thing. I don't even have to own those. You could do the same thing representing somebody, but control is almost as good as ownership, if not better in a lot of ways. It's a wonderful world out there. It really is. There's so much. Like our ability to generate opportunity has never been greater. We've got to pull our focus off of just sales. It's great. You be good at sales. And your sales ability will help you acquire assets. Your negotiation skills will help you acquire those assets.